Farming Simulator. Now here's a game that makes you wonder, what's the appeal of spending hours plowing fields and harvesting crops in a virtual world? On the surface, it might look like just another slow-paced sim, but beneath that, there's a rewarding, addictive grind that keeps players, myself included, coming back year after year. I started the series with Farming Simulator 17 and now I've easily poured over 500 hours into Farming Simulator 22. There's something uniquely satisfying about building up your own farm from scratch, managing everything from crops to livestock, and upgrading your equipment as you go. So what makes this series so special? Is it worth your time? And with Farming Simulator 25 right around the corner, what can you expect? Let's ask and answer these and of course the simple question, should you make time for Farming Simulator? If you're new to the series, Farming Simulator is exactly what it sounds like. It rides the line between game and simulation very tightly. And while there aren't locals to interact with and mysteries to solve, you're just not hopping on a tractor driving around doing chores either. You're handling every aspect of farm life. Planting, harvesting, managing livestock, maintaining equipment, and even working with seasonal changes. Now I've been in the series like I mentioned since FS17, and let me tell you, it's come a long way. Each release builds on the last, adding more detail, better physics, and a wider range of crops, machinery, and management tools. One of the biggest appeals here is the level of realism. The game models real-world agricultural processes. You have to prepare the land, manage soil, rotate crops, and if you want to perfect and maximize your crop yields and income, you need to minimize your environmental impact. There's a gameplay cycle that's oddly satisfying. You start out struggling with empty fields, maybe a couple of low-end tractors, and a tiny budget. But if you stick with it, you'll end up upgrading your farm and tools season after season. Well, theoretically, if you don't get bogged down with how long it takes. And if you're like me and love the sandbox style of gaming, you'll probably spend most of your time on the famous custom map No Man's Land. A blank slate where you're free to build up your farm from scratch. I think I sunk most of my 500 hours in FS22 just on this map. There's just something about starting with nothing and watching it all come together that's incredibly rewarding. So let's talk about what works in this game. For one, Farming Simulator is an unmatched in how it recreates farming life. You have an insane amount of licensed equipment to work with, from giants like John Deere to Case IH, to specialized machines for grape or olive farming. The attention to detail is incredible, and the steady pace of gameplay gives you a chance to just chill and unwind. There's a meditative quality here. You might spend hours just plowing a single field, or planning out your next crop cycle, or designing your farm layout. And because everything is so detailed, the end rewards feel well earned. Multiplayer is a big plus for the series. You can farm with friends, divide up tasks, or just roam around doing stunts. It's surprisingly social and adds a lot of fun to the usual solo grind. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Farming Simulator has a bit of a learning curve for newcomers and it doesn't hold your hand at all. It's definitely not your casual farming game. This is more of a true-to-life experience, and that can make it overwhelming if you're jumping in for the first time. While there's an in-game reference to the different mechanics involved, save yourself some headaches and just watch a guide or two about getting started. Another thing is the grind. The game can get repetitive, especially if you're playing solo. You're running the same cycle over and over season after season, and while that's realistic, it can start feeling a bit like a chore if you're not in the right mindset. Plus, despite the realistic machinery, the physics can sometimes be questionable. Anyone who's ever had a tractor randomly flip over or an AI stuck in a lake will know what I mean. Now let's talk about the DLC and the seasonal content. Farming Simulator releases a fair amount of downloadable content with each game. Usually new equipment packs, crop types, or specialized tools, some with even added mechanics. While these DLCs add variety and seem money grabby, they're not always essential. Honestly, one of the best parts of Farming Simulator is the incredible modding community. Almost anything you'd find in a DLC can be replicated or even surpassed by the mods available for free in the game's mod database. There are thousands of player-made mods that add everything from unique vehicles and maps to custom crops and gameplay tweaks. Some of these mods are just as detailed as an official DLC and add nearly limitless customization options. So if you're not keen on spending extra for every DLC, just dive into the mod database. You'll probably find everything you need to keep your farm running and then some. Whether it's adding new maps, creating entirely custom equipment, the modding community's creativity is one of the biggest strengths of the game series. It's like having a built-in expansion pack with every game, making each version feel fresh long after its release, even keeping older games in the series feeling better for quite some time than the most recent version. Speaking of which, let's get into Farming Simulator 25 and the updates we're all looking forward to when it launches on November 12th. So there are quite a few upgrades here, from graphical overhauls to core gameplay mechanic improvements and additions. For one, they're revamping AI workers to be a lot more dynamic, so you'll now be able to assign tasks and routes and adapt them to different field sizes and layouts, which should take some of the manual micromanaging off your hands. They're also introducing better crop varieties, new soil and irrigation systems, and more specialized equipment. There'll also be construction projects, interactable NPCs, and a revamped economy system, all of which are things I'm looking forward to. I'll be doing a deeper dive into FS25 once I get my hands on it and of course get a few hundred hours in, but it's shaping up to be one of the best updates we've seen yet. When it comes to graphics, the series is head and shoulders above anything else, with as close to realistic as you can get with today's PCs. Sound design is top notch and the vehicle sounds are great and add to the immersive nature of gameplay. And when it comes to the gameplay itself, there is no game like it. Some are close, but again, the Farming Simulator series is always in the lead. So that's Farming Simulator series in a nutshell. It's one of those games where the payoff is really in the journey. It's about putting in the time, working through the seasons, and watching your farm thrive. You have to make your own fun. I can't wait to see what Farming Simulator 25 brings to the table, and hey, if you're someone who enjoys a laid-back but deeply engaging game, this series is definitely one to make time for. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, drop me a like. You can watch more content right now, or subscribe for future videos, and remember, always make time for games.